everybody. In this video, I'm going to go through the Elecfreaks experiment number 9 buzzer. So in this experiment, we're going to get this little buzzer on the breadboard to play, which acts separately from the speaker that you have built into the micro bit. Much like the other experiments, on column number 1 here for the 3-volt pin, I've got this red jumper cable that shares the red rail. I've got this red wire that comes down here, and that shares the 3 volts to the red rail at the bottom. Same thing in column number 1 with the ground. I've got this jumper cable that goes to the blue rail. That shares ground along here. The ground is passed along that black wire and then shared the ground along the top rail that we have at the blue as well. In addition to that, on pin 0 on the board in column number 2, I've got a wire that runs over to column number 15. Below that in column number 15, I have the left-hand leg of a 100 ohm resistor, and that resistor goes over to column number 18. Above that, in column number 18, I've got an NPN transistor here. And you can see I've got the metal part and the black part facing towards me. And 18 lines up with the left-hand leg. In column number 19, I've got a jumper cable that runs from that middle pin over to the left-hand leg of my speaker, which is the negative leg of the speaker. In addition, in column number 20, I've got a jumper cable that runs to the blue ground rail as well. Up here, I've got a jumper cable that's running from my 3 volts, and that's running over to column number 26. And just to show you, when I lift up the speaker, your pins will get bent a little bit on that. Try not to bend them too much. These pins can break. And in fact, little buzzer or little speaker is probably the most common item that gets broken in one of these kits. So that's going to be column 24 is your negative side, and column 26 is your positive side. And if you look at the top, it might be hard to see on camera, there is a tiny little plus sign on the top of that buzzer. It's just kind of hard to see with the lighting that I have on there right now. All right, so once all that is wired up, we're going to go over to make code. I've modified the code right now, so it plays when I press the A button. If you ever do this in a classroom, I do recommend modifying it so it has to be triggered with a button. Otherwise, you're going to have all the devices playing at once, and they're not going to stop playing because there's no code to tell it to stop in the default make code program. All right, so let's go over to make code, and let's see how we can set up the buzzer to play. All right, so I'm here in MakeCode, and the first thing it wants me to do is a ringtone to a middle C, and this is page 18 of your manual. So I go to Music. We got this one here that says Ringtone, and I drag that into my Forever loop. Now, on here, we're going to have the emulator playing that C. You notice it's playing all the time. If we don't want to hear that, you can go down and hit the Stop button, and that way it turns off the emulator as you're putting the music together, and I do recommend stopping that. The next thing that it wants us to do is to do a pause. That's under Basic. And we're going to pause for 100 milliseconds. Let me drag that up there. And the next thing it wants is a middle E. So ringtone here, and drop this down. And middle E should be 2 white keys up there on the piano from the middle C. All right. Then it wants another pause. And after that, it wants a middle G. So ringtone, middle G. So that's going to be 5 keys up there. So right up here between the halfway between the 3 little black keys that we have there. And then it wants another 100 millisecond pause. And then it wants to go back down to a middle E to do something that we call an arpeggio. All right, switch this back to a middle E. And then it wants another 100 millisecond pause after that. And that way this plays for about 1/10 of a second. All right, I'm going to unpause this and let's see if my program runs. All right, so that is awesome. It plays, it loops forever, and that's fine when I'm alone at home doing this, but if I've got 20 students in a classroom doing this, that's not a really good idea to have going on. So instead, I'm going to change the input here. So again, input, and we're going to do a button A pressed. I'm going to drag all these over to my button A pressed, and now when I press button A, once it starts up again, I have to hit play down here. Okay, so it worked, it ran, but now it's paused, and that E, we've never told it to stop playing that. So I'm going to stop that. What I want to do then is I want to go into my music. I want to stop all sounds. All right, I'm going to try playing this again. Press my button A. Okay, that's cool, but I want it to go back to that middle C just because I think it would sound better. So I'm going to go to Music. We're going to add a ringtone of a middle C here. I'm going to try playing it. Okay. And that sounded good, but the C didn't sound at all because I didn't give it a pause to leave the sound playing for a little while. So I'm going to go back, add one more little pause here, and let's see if this works. All right, there we go. I got my full arpeggio. And maybe if I wanted to do that 3 times instead of just the once, I could go into loops. Let's say a repeat here at the beginning. I can drag that box inside. We'll have it repeat 3 times. And all right, so it's a little janky there, and that might be because that stop all sound might need to go outside of there. Let's try it one more time. Oh, actually, it's because I've got the middle C twice there. So in fact, I'm going to take this outside of the loop, and then that way it loops back to the middle C at the top, and then does a final C at the end before it stops. All right, let's just try that one more time. There we go. So that's a modified version of that program. And if you ever want to use the speaker that's built into the microbit itself, that's one where you use your play tone, and that'll play the one on the microbit, and the ringtone is the one that'll let you play it off the board on the buzzer. Good luck with experiment number 9.